This is the 2023 Cliburn International Junior Piano Competition and Festival. Welcome to the second day of the preliminary round of the 2023 Cliburn Junior. I'm your host, Buddy Gray.
And I'm your co-host, Bridget Kibbe. We are broadcasting live from Caruth Auditorium here in Dallas, Texas.
And just a reminder, you can see a list of all the competitors, their repertoire, and the times they're playing on our website at cliburn.org.
And we encourage you to also visit the social media platforms to read about these competitors. We have found it to be so delightful to read a little bit about their biographies and then hear that personality sparkling in their performances. So check those out as well.
Speaking of those performances, you have a voice in this as well. You can vote for the Audience Favorite Award. All the rules are there on the website as well. It has its own little button called Audience Award. Speaking of this website and the webcast, we are supported in this webcast this year by the Texas Ballet Theater through a generous grant from Ann T. and Robert M. Bass. Bridget, we are so happy to have you on the webcast.
Thank you for having me, buddy. It's such a treat.
And it's great to have you at the anchor desk. Last year you were a correspondent for us at the Cliburn International Piano Competition, but this is so different.
I'm enjoying this so much because, folks, it's the junior, and these kids are wowing us. They are fearless. It's been incredible the first day.
It was an amazing first day. And just a few statistics, there were 248 applications this year from 44 countries. We had to get that down to 24 competitors. We heard 12 of them yesterday. We'll hear the balance of that today. And this is the night when we announce the quarterfinalists already. We are going from 24 to 12 late this evening. We'll be on the air after the last performance this evening and while the jury votes, so we can bring you the names of the quarterfinalists a little bit later. Bridget, we heard such a variety of repertoire yesterday. Those BACH performances that just sort of ran the gamut, right?
It was so wonderful. I love the premise that every competitor plays a BACH Prelude and Fugue, because right away you see their mental approach to playing the piano, and then of course they expand upon their own programming choices that allows them to really take us on a journey in 20 minutes.
And you know, I thought what was so interesting was that they would come out and play that Prelude and Fugue, which, as you say, gives you such a window, and then they have to shift gears really quickly because also in the program they have to give us a virtuoso etude, which could be by Chopin or Liszt or Rachmaninoff. We even had a Ligeti etude yesterday. So as you say, they have to shape in 20 minutes their entire musical gamut so that the jury can see that. I think that they're probably looking forward to a chance to play with the Dallas Symphony Orchestra too.
I can only imagine. That sounds like a fantastic opportunity, and it's exciting that we have, in a sense, 2 short recital programs and then some concerti.
So 3 lucky finalists will be playing in the finals with the Dallas Symphony Orchestra and guest conductor Valentina Pelleggi. Okay, it is time to meet our very first competitor. Yifan Wu is 14 from China. Here's a little bit about him.
I'm Yifan Wu. I'm 14 years old. I come from Shanghai, China. I really like sports. Table tennis, badminton, and cycling. I studied few follets for 3 years. 3 years, yeah. And I want to challenge. Cliburn Junior competition is, I think, is the best of any other, it's better than any other junior competition. I'm very excited to show my music to my audience.
We're just about a minute away from hearing Yifan Wu take the stage here at Caruth Auditorium in Dallas, Texas. Bridget, we were talking just a little bit about how to shape a program in 20 minutes. What do you think is the real imperative there?
I think the most amazing thing about these competitors is that they all have chops to burn. It's very clear the level is incredibly high, but I think what's most astonishing is that these younger artists already are mature musicians. You see such depth in their thinking and the way they've crafted these programs. Some used harmonic language in a sense to connect the dots harmonically. Other used kind of an emotional arc to give you a window into their inner worlds. And I'm quoting them. They're saying they want to give us a chance to see their inner worlds while learning from the other competitors. That rich collaborative spirit while still being, forward facing is really special and impressive.
It is special, and as I keep saying, it's one of the happiest things we do here, that these kids come from all over the world and they sort of find their tribe once they're here. There are other kids who practice 6 hours a day as well. We're going to take you down to stage. Here is Yifan Wu. Yifan Wu getting a great response from the audience there at Caruth Auditorium in Dallas, Texas. And he's just given us a program of Bach, Liszt, and SCRIABIN. Not a bad way to start the day. What do you think, Bridget?
Oh my goodness, what an incredible performance. There was color coming off those keys in the most magical way. I felt like he had a very singular approach to the piano that created this beautiful texture of shimmer. There was like a légère that was so beautiful in the Feux follets. It was just stunning.
And then that SCRIABIN also just great.
Beautiful.
He was all business in the Bach, I thought.
It was very straightforward, letting the music speak for itself, really.
Just a great performance from this 14-year-old. We are just about to meet our next competitor. He is Tiankun Ma, 16 from China. Here's a little bit about Tiankun Ma.
我是马天坤，我今年16岁，来自北京。我记得很小的时候，我妈妈在教学生的时候啊，我听到那些美妙的音乐，所以我就对钢琴非常感兴趣。那么这也是我学习钢琴的原因。因为参加范克莱本这样的大的钢琴比赛一直是我们的梦想，也是我的梦想，所以这一次很高兴也很激动能来到克莱本，所以我也算是圆梦了，
Welcome back to the webcast. I'm Buddy Bray with Bridget Kibbe. Tiankun Ma is in moments going to take the stage here at the 2023 Cliburn International Junior Piano Competition and Festival. I noticed, Bridget, that he is going to play one of the barn burners,
Yes,
La Valse.
I
Ravel's
couldn't
La
help but
Valse.
notice. I cannot wait to hear this on the piano. It's been so fun to hear the textural, colorful approach to the piano between the competitors. So
La Valse is just one of those great piano pieces, and it came into vogue. Actually, the American pianist Ruth Laredo was instrumental, so to speak, in bringing that to the fore, and it's just never left the repertoire since the late 60s when she sort of championed the piece. There are all kinds of ways to play La Valse. We can't wait to hear him do it. Taking the stage now, Tiankun Ma, 16 from China. Here he is. Tiankun Ma, 16 years old and setting the piano on fire here at the Cliburn 2023 International Junior Piano Competition and Festival. Tiankun Ma, of course, gave us also music of Bach and LISZT, his Gnomenreigen, one of his concert etudes. What'd you think of that valse, Bridget?
Incredible to hear, and I just love the fact that he accomplished all the paradoxes in the score. You had a very clear metric of the waltz, but also this push and pull of color at all times. He managed all of that effortlessly. It was beautiful.
I thought so too, and he was a combination of a lot of things for me. He was a very serious performer, but I could tell he was having a great time with La Valse. And the piano nerd in me also loved watching the solutions that you have to make in La Valse, how you manage the glissandi and the inner voices and so forth. That was really fascinating to see. Next up is Alyssa Gabrilovich, 17 years old from the United States. Let's take a moment and meet her now.
My name is Alyssa Gabrilovich. I'm 17 years old and I'm from Pennsylvania. I started when I was 6. So at like 6 years old, at first it's just like a hobby, you know, you take some lessons. And then my mom, you know, especially in like Russian culture, music is such a big thing with all the conservatories. She was like, you know what, just keep doing music. And then in the beginning, it was like a hobby, I was like young. When you're younger, I feel like what you think can be a job is just like being a doctor or being like whatever, like the basic things. But when you grow, you realize there's so many other fields that you can do, especially with art. So it's like, I realize like that's what I want to do. Mm-hmm.
17-year-old Alyssa Gabrilovich from Philadelphia, performing music of SHCHEDRIN. That was our first music by Rodion SCHCHEDRIN in this competition. Maybe the first music by Rodion SCHCHEDRIN in any Van Cliburn competition. Music from his ballet Anna Karenina, arranged by Mikhail PLETNEV. Also, of course, she played a BACH Prelude and Fugue in F minor, and the first Étude-tableau from Opus 39 of RACHMANINOV. I'm Buddy Bray, happy to be your host for this Cliburn Junior.
And I'm your co-host, Bridget Kibbe, where we are broadcasting live in Dallas, Texas at the Caruth Auditorium.
Now, while the audience takes a 20-minute intermission, this is a good time for Bridget and I to catch up with what's been happening since we started this afternoon. Bridget, we started first with Yifan Wu, 14 years old from China. Great playing today.
Amazing.
From Yifan Wu.
I love how he just let the Bach score speak for itself and really was a straightforward performance of that Bach Prelude and Fugue. But then when he went into Feux, follets, he had the most beautiful textures on the piano. And what did you think of his articulation? I thought it was very singular with this beautiful shimmering color he created.
Beautiful color. And what's so important in Feux, follets, it is fearsomely difficult. It's legendarily difficult for the piano, and it is about getting that leggero.
Yes.
And the audience can't know that it's tough to negotiate the piece, or the charm is lost. And he was all over that. He
completely
was really
effortless to the viewer. Really beautiful.
Also, that SCRIABIN fourth sonata that he gave us was magnificent playing.
Incredible color. I can't believe the color he was able to pull from the piano from start to finish. Really spectacular.
We heard Tiankun Ma, 16 years old from China. He was just after Yifan, and he was the one who gave us that amazing La Valse.
Incredible rendition. I could not believe how he went from the push and pull of all the hazy colors to a really straightforward waltz. It was fierce, it was beautiful, it was stunning, it had all the nuance and all the feels, and just once again, effortless, a wow performance, start to finish.
It really was. And of course, as I said before, I was so intrigued to see how he would solve all the pianistic problems in La Valse, because RAVEL left a great blueprint to follow, but there are certain times where you really do need three hands.
Or a harp, really.
Or really a
what can I
harp, or
say?
maybe even two.
Even two harps.
Would be better. Okay, and we finished, of course, with Alyssa Gabrilovich, 17 years old from the United States, playing her repertoire of Bach and the Rachmaninoff Etude in C minor, and then that ballet music from Anna Karenina. Great competition volley to play something unusual for people to sort of make your mark.
Discover new repertoire as well, which was fun.
Remember, you can see a list of all the competitors, their names, what they're playing, when they're playing it, at cliburn.org. So surf on over there for more information.
And we also encourage you to go to the social media platforms to read more about these competitors. Once again, I have personally found it so delightful to read their biographies. Their personalities are enchanting as you're witnessing, and how that translates to the works and the programming and their playing is really fun to see. So I encourage you to do that. You can also go to cliburn.org to donate to this wonderful organization to help the young generation of pianists create their next career, maybe through this competition.
And while you're at cliburn.org, and you're probably there right now, vote for the Audience Favorite Award. There are all kinds of rules about how often you can vote and how many times per round you can vote and all that. It's all on the website for you. Intermission is a great time here at Caruth Auditorium, where the audience pours out into the gift shop. In the lobby, there are some great new items in the gift shop this year. We're going to have Mary Elizabeth Van Meter on the webcast later on to talk about all of the new things in the Cliburn gift shop. But if you're not in Dallas, we've got you covered. You can shop online at shop.cliburn.org, or there's a handy QR code that you can have on your screen, and you can shop that way. All right, we are going to talk to Carol Leone, who is a distinguished juror. We'll do that a little bit later in this intermission break. And coming out of the intermission, we're going to hear some more music that we do not normally hear at the Cliburn. That is the Dutilleux Piano Sonata.
Wonderful.
The chorale and variations from the Dutilleux Piano Sonata. That's going to be played for us by Lukas Lee, who is 15 years old. Incredible. From China. There was something else interesting. Oh yeah, he's going to do a different sort of order. Everybody so far has started with their Bach Prelude and Fugue, which I can totally understand. It gets you warmed up. It also gets the Fugue out of the way so you can
Mental
relax for the rest of the
preparation.
program. But he is starting with his Liszt La Campanella Etude.
Oh, wow.
Then he's playing his Bach, and then this chorale and variations by Henri Dutilleux. That's coming up after intermission. All right. Before we talk to Carol Leone, which is coming right up, we thought you'd like a little information on the namesake of all these competitions we do and all our products, our namesake and our inspiration. Van Cliburn, here are a couple of friends of his who knew him best.
In 1958, Cold War tensions were at their absolute height. Nuclear annihilation was a constant concern. It was against this backdrop of mutual anxiety and suspense that Texas's Van Cliburn emerged, not only winning the first Tchaikovsky competition in Moscow, but ushering in the possibility for a new generation of cultural exchange between the East and the West.
The Soviets at that time had just excelled in space and at the Olympics with gold medals, and they said, we can even do it in the arts too.
That such a competition would be won by an American, and that's what happened. Van went there. He won over the Russian public. He won over the judges. He played like an angel. I interviewed Vera Gornostaeva, who was a revered teacher at the Moscow Conservatory, and I have a picture in my book of her pointing to her heart, and that was in response to my question, what distinguished Van's playing?
And I remember perfectly well how barely my father and mother squeezed me through the crowd because there were no tickets. And I sat on my father's lap and heard Van play Tchaikovsky's first piano concert. Van Cliburn came to Russia and brought them back some fantasy which Russians lost during this so many tragedies which Russians went through.
I mean, now we refer to him as President Bush, but he was George then. I mean, he said, you know, we're opening the ballpark, and I would like to do something special. Do you have any suggestions? And I said, well, I think one of the best things you could do would be to have Van Cliburn play the national anthem. And he said, well, Van's not going to do that. He wouldn't do something like that for, you know, for a baseball game.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, to perform our national anthem on opening day at the ballpark in Arlington, please welcome Texas's own Van Cliburn, joined by the Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Maestro John Giordano.
Isn't that crazy? It's crazy. And I mean, all of a sudden he stops and he gets up and he grabs the microphone. Oh, say, you know, there it is.
Our namesake, Van Cliburn, without whom we wouldn't be doing any of this. And I think he would be having such a wonderful time at this competition, seeing these young people. As I've said probably 20 times since yesterday, this is one of the very happiest things we do at the Cliburn, and I wish you were here to see it. In this break, we have one of our distinguished jurors who knows her way around this building pretty well because she is also a distinguished professor of piano at Southern Methodist University. Happy to welcome Carol Leone to the webcast.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm so glad to see everyone here. Cliburn just looks beautiful in our building.
We are very happy to be here. And you know, I've been thinking about you a lot since yesterday because one of the things you've done a lot of in your life is teach kids from this sort of age bracket. You've been very successful with that, with your college kids, of course, as well, but with this age group as well. What's the difference, do you think, in teaching older kids and then these kids?
Right. Well, I mean, I really have to give a shout out to the amazing teachers of these young artists because, yes, they have to introduce those concepts and integrate all of those layers of those facets of piano playing right from the beginning. And, you know, so we're talking about getting totally set up physically and mechanically, and, you know, how to produce sound, touch, texture, and then, of course, lovingly guiding them toward interpreting and becoming expressive emotionally, right? And so all of these things could be set up by the time someone comes to university, but the teachers of pre-college students, they're amazing, you know, because they have to integrate all of this and orchestrate all of this. And of course, the students, they're bringing remarkable gifts. The families are bringing the, you know, the relentless, the diligent discipline, right? But it's the teachers who are putting it all together. So I just am amazed at the teaching of these students. You can see it.
You know, we were talking at a party at Jacques in January about successful teaching, and we were talking about a particular student of yours, and I won't say his name on the webcast, but we were talking about this kid's personality and how you suss out personality in your teaching. Is that different with a 13-year-old? Do you think a 13-year-old's personality is pretty well formed by 13, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think there is very much difference with that. But of course, a teacher of a young student has the opportunity to help that student find their own voice. And of course, that continues through university training as well. But what I think is challenging is to have the student not just be a puppet of what the teacher wants, but actually, you know, you have to inspire the student to make these things their own and find their own way. And
that's the hard part, right? That is the hard thing. The easy thing would be to say, play it like this. I'll show you just how to play it like this. Do it this way. But that's a totally different thing you're talking about.
But you can tell the difference between that kind of teaching and the kind of teaching where everything is open for the student to try and experiment. That's why you can't really be ultimately successful as a teacher who instills fear in a child.
Right.
You have to lovingly present. I mean, because if you want a student to love music, you have to present it with that kind of kindness and love, I believe. That's
I think also, I think you're getting to the very heart of it. What it means to be an educator anyway is to bring forth, to bring out. And you're certainly not going to do it by saying, this is the way to do it this way or suffer the consequences. So sussing out all that, bringing it out of somebody, that really is teaching, I think, and that's the hardest thing, I think.
So sure, you have to emphasize their strengths, but then of course you have to have the right balance with bringing up their weaknesses as well, and just understanding each person individually.
Well, I think your students are in excellent hands, and I think these kids here are in excellent hands with your ears listening to them. Carol Leone, thank you so much for being with us in this break. Take care of yourself. You've got a lot of listening still to do.
Yes, I'm enjoying it.
Thank you so much. All right, we have a lot of arts going on in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Take a look at this.
Whenever I travel to new places, the first thing I start with is the art. What's the art scene like here in Dallas?
Thriving. There's music and visual art and theater and dance. A lot of it's right here in the Dallas Arts District.
I've been noticing a lot of the architecture out here is incredible.
We have 4 arts buildings, each designed by a different Pritzker Prize-winning architect, all right here in the Arts District. Dallas thinks big. Dallas is a bold, new city. There's a spirit of innovation that's happening in the art scene in Dallas right now that is so incredibly exciting. It's not just football and barbecue. Dallas is a world-class innovative art city.
Welcome back to the webcast. I'm Buddy Bray with Bridget Kibbe, and we've already blown the surprise because we told you what Lukas Lee was going to play, but I want to go back to that point about the order in which you play things. Are you sensitive to that when you're programming
Absolutely.
a concert?
I think it's interesting for the audience to kind of have the first perspective of your sound of the instrument and also your mental space to prepare them for what that journey will look and feel like.
What about starting with something super virtuoso like he is about to do?
Yes. That takes a special performer that has that confidence to go out and just go. But I think temperaments vary between performers as well. Some people like to center themselves and then bust out. Others like to just come and be bold and then hem in and calm down into that place of meditation with a fugue.
And we've talked about the dreaded fugues.
Yes.
Fugues, let's just get into that for a minute, because fugues are just so difficult, and it's because you're flying in formation, right?
Yes.
You're trying to think about 3 or 4 voices at once.
Absolutely, like an engineer, you have these building blocks that you're playing with, almost like a Rubik's Cube, to reference one of our other competitors. You're playing with some of these different structures mentally as you actually execute them, you know, in different time frames. So it takes a lot of, I guess, raising above the piano 20,000 feet to understand what you're actually executing. It's really quite the task.
And then there's also that psychological component, which is that the Cliburn has imposed a prelude and fugue on the competitor. So it takes you momentarily out of that psychological space where this could be just any old concert.
Yes.
But it really is a competition when you are playing a prelude and fugue. It's hard to forget. And what I see happening so often over the last 2 days is competitors doing their very best to make as much music as they can possibly make in the fugue in order to forget that it is a test, that it really is a piece of music and not just some dreaded high jump, basically, to make. And then I want to talk a little bit about his Dutilleux sonata.
Great.
Because that's a bold choice. I think it's not something that the audience will know. It's not even something that everybody on the jury will be intimate with. So that's a bold choice as well.
I think, you know, a lot of the pianists we're hearing today in the preliminary round have chosen color-forward repertoire. And it's really exciting to hear how they craft these textures. So I think Dutilleux is one of those composers that it really allows you to be imaginative and orchestrating on the piano, right?
Yeah. Lukas Lee told us in his interview that you're going to shortly see that he chose with great care his Etude and his Prelude and Fugue because the keys relate to each other.
Fabulous.
La Campanella is in G sharp minor.
Right.
The Prelude and Fugue he chose is in B major. And I asked him, because we don't hear a lot of B major Prelude and Fugue from either book, and I asked him what the deal was on choosing the B major, and he told me that he likes the key of B major. He thinks that it is a beautiful and calm key. And usually when a kid will speak about a particular tonality, that usually signifies that they have absolute pitch.
That's
and
incredible.
he does.
And also the color of a key, he understands that texture to it too, which has really evolved. Really beautiful.
Absolutely is. So we're going to hear Lukas Lee in a program of Paganini LISZT, La Campanella to begin with, the Prelude and Fugue in B major by Johann Sebastian Bach, and the Chorale and Variation of the Sonata number 1 for piano by the French composer Henri Dutilleux. Let's take just a minute and meet Lukas Lee, 15, from China.
My name is Lukas Lee. I'm 15 years old, and I come from Hebei. I study in Tianjin Juilliard School. I really like B major. I think this key is so warm and so beautiful. It's creative key, I think. My father is a piano teacher and a pianist. I heard a lot of music, maybe in his class and his performance. The competition, I think I can improve my skill and my technique, and I can find some new friends.
We're just moments away from Lukas Lee taking the stage here at the Cliburn 2023 International Junior Piano Competition and Festival. We were just looking over the repertoire for the next 3 performers in this session, and you know what strikes me as so interesting, it's something that you've touched on already, is a window into the personality of these kids. Lukas Lee has a very specific vibe that he's going for, and then I noticed Miho, the next performer, is going to offer the LISZT Rhapsody Espagnole, which if there was ever a barn burner of a piano piece, that is it. And then Shijia Wang, 14 from China, also is going to start with some Lyadov piano pieces, the only time that we'll hear Lyadov in this whole competition, and also the Chopin Rondo a la Mazur. Again, another piece, you know, Chopin. Of course, we hear a lot of Chopin, but Rondo a la Mazur, Opus 5, is not a piece that we hear very often. So again, they're giving you that window that you've talked about and that you pick up on so well, but they're also strategizing a little bit.
I believe that, right? They're putting something forward that's their own right from the very start.
And I think one of the things about the Cliburn, we have imposed a Prelude and Fugue and a virtuoso Etude, but the rest is up to them to sort of best foot forward.
It's so smart. It gives them an opportunity to kind of shape the experience for themselves and the audience, especially this first round. It's their first chance to come on stage as a competitor, so they have to feel like they've owned that program.
And I think as a 14 or 15-year-old, it is very difficult to say, this is who I am. At 14 and 15, you don't really know that yet, but these kids are pretty aware of who they are. We're going to take you down to stage now with Lukas Lee, 15 from China, at this Cliburn 2023 Junior Competition and Festival. Here's Lukas. Lucas Lee, 15 from China, giving us great performance of the chorale and variations by Henri Dutieu. Let's meet our next competitor, Mi Ho, who is 15, also from China.
我的名字叫侯米，今年15岁，来自中国。然后，他对我妈对我的影响其实是一个启蒙上的这个影响，因为他特别喜欢，就是他在我没出生的时候和我爸一块买了一个钢琴，说就是他反映了这个，我说以后对我这个道路的影响是非常深刻的。 在这个舞台上看到，就是让给外国人谈一谈我的音乐，看一看，给他们讲讲我心里想说的话。
Big applause for Miho 15 from China, who has just given us a wonderful performance of the Rhapsody in Espanol by Franz Liszt. We're going to turn right around and have another competitor, who is Sijia Wang 14, also from China. A really beautiful program, starting with Bach, of course, but ending with a little-known Chopin work, Rondo a la Mazur. Here is Sijia Wang.
Opus 39, number 3, Chopin, Rondo à la Mazur in F major, Opus 5. Let's give a big welcome to the next competitor.
Xizhe Wang, 14 from China, finishing his really great program here at the Cliburn Junior Piano Competition. Let's take just a minute and find out a little more about Xizhe Wang.
我是王思哲，今年14岁，来自中国广州。我外婆呢是民乐的乐队里面的琵琶手，我的外公呢是二胡的演奏者。然后呢，我的妈妈也是从小跟着在乐队里面，从小也是长大的。然后我的妈妈非常希望呢，我能够弹奏钢琴，演奏古典音乐。
Welcome to the webcast. I'm Buddy Bray. I should say welcome back to the webcast.
And I'm Bridget Kibbe, your co-host here in the preliminaries, our first session of the day here in Caruth Auditorium in Dallas, Texas.
This is always a great time to take a quick look back at the last three performers. We started this session with 15-year-old Lukas Lee from China.
Fabulous variolage on that campanella, that right-hand sound on those octaves that are so synonymous with the piece. Just beautiful playing.
And also that great Bach Prelude and Fugue that he started with. He told us he was going to start with the LISZT, but he started with his Bach anyway. Lukas Lee, always full of surprises. And then that chorale and variations from the Dutilleux piano sonata, a great, really dramatic thing to hear.
It was incredible to hear how he parsed out that chorale, and the articulation was so powerful in that piece.
Then we heard from Miho, China, 15. That Rhapsody Espagnole, such a barn burner.
Fantastic. I mean, again, an effortless performance, what can we say? Just beautiful articulation on the piano. So stunning.
And he gave us, I think, our first G minor Prelude and Fugue of this session, of this afternoon. Xizhe Wang, whom you just heard, gave us our second G minor Prelude and Fugue of the afternoon. I thought that his program was so well constructed and had such a great flow to it, starting with those Liedhoff piano pieces, then that Bach.
I really felt like he had such an alive approach to everything that he played. The rhythm in the mazurka was incredible, and also his Bach Prelude and Fugue, I thought it just had such a clarity to it. It was so special.
That clarity is so important in Bach, taking a piece that was written for the harpsichord, and that's all about clarity and evenness, because there's so little you can do, there's so little you can do in terms of tone color on the harpsichord, so that clarity is just so important. The Rondo a la Mazur that I was looking forward to hearing, so good, and I think you put your finger right on it when you said that rhythmic clarity, and it made the piece come alive.
Really beautiful. It's just stunning. Amazing performer.
Remember, you can see a list of all the competitors, what they're playing and when they're playing it, on Cliburn.org. You can also vote for your favorites as an audience member, also at Cliburn.org.
And be sure to visit the social media platforms to read more about the competitors, their lives outside of playing the piano, why they chose their repertoire, and more about them as individuals.
This year, the webcast is supported by Texas Ballet Theater through a generous donation by Ann T. and Robert M. Bass.
And the truth is, you also can support the Cliburn, and what you're doing with your generous donation is supporting the next generation of pianists and beyond. So please check out Cliburn.org to donate today.
We'll be back tonight for our last round in this preliminary round of the 2023 Cliburn Junior Competition. Performances start at 7 p.m. Central. Bridget and I will be right back here at 6:55 Central Time. And we will be with you until the final competitor plays. I'm Buddy Bray.